Welcome to Built Different by Design. I'm Emanuella, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Bionca Stewart.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today. So, Bionca is the co-founder of Smith Stewart Homes. And so, I want you to take me back to the beginnings of Smith Stewart Homes. How did this come to life?
It's actually a very interesting story. So I met Jayana when I was shopping for a home myself. My husband and I had just moved up to Atlanta area, and she partnered with the realtor that I worked with. That realtor subsequently kind of like fell off. She just really like stepped up and she helped us. She didn't have to. And so I actually found a new construction on my own and put her name down as like the realtor. And she was like, why are you giving me credit for this? And I'm like, because you didn't have to be present with me. From there, like we formed a friendship, recognized that we had the same mindset as it relates to wanting to be in the industry, wanting to see, market change. I feel like from that shopping experience, one of the things that I noticed was that there was like a repetitive pattern for what was being built in Atlanta by kind of like the large scale developers. And so, I just really wanted to be able to see that shift change. She did as well. We both handle different components of what our firm looks like together, like the differences that we have just really gel as one for what we know that we need to be able to thrive in the industry.
I love that. So with both of you coming together as a partnership, for those who are interested in doing a partnership with someone, how is that structured? How do you make sure no one's toes is getting stepped on?
Honestly, one, I think it is giving way to what that person is good at. It's like a marriage, to be quite honest, being in a business of this nature, of this magnitude, and where we wanted to grow. We have business checks, but we also have like relationship checks with each other as well. Of, how are we showing up for one another? Communication and accountability been to each other. What do those dynamics look like? All influence how your business functions and flows, right?
Right.
Trust, is the other part. Like we run into a lot of situations where like one person will be like, oh, I spoke to that person. And we're both like, no, how about let me follow up and then we'll kind of get back to you. Never a thing where we're like throwing one another under the bus or, whatever. Like I trust, that person wholeheartedly because I have to. Like it's like a lifeline type of situation in alignment with like finances, money, reinvesting, those different things. Like all of that, I think if you have the same values, the same alignment, the same driven goals, then it can flow. Literally like picking a partner, like picking a
I was going to say,
partner.
so how was the first date? Right. Well, because that's a tough conversation to have with someone, the finances. Like, how was that decision made? Was it iterations that y'all had to go through in order to be like, okay, did you have to get a lawyer? Like, because these are things people don't think about when you're doing partnerships.
Certainly I would. When Jayana and I started, like we were just so excited to be in it and at different components of what to place, to be able to make sure that you have structure and protection and like, what if one person like doesn't hold up their end of carrying and like all of these different, things, but we didn't even know that carrying was a thing, right? Carrying is carrying costs that you would incur when taking out a hard money loan to be able to start a development series. So like all of those different things, like we were kind of like learning along the way. So to be quite honest, like we've just really developed our business structure along the way. I thank God that he has kept us grounded, that, he partnered me with someone that I truly can believe in and trust and value. And that value has, been interchangeable because it could have went terrible, right? Like the level of money that we invest into this business, it's a lot. And so you certainly have to make sure that you have all those components in place on the front end to ensure that you're protected, on the back end, because anything can happen at any time. And then, one person can be left like shouldering all of it.
Yeah, that's super important. So Construction isn't your background.
No.
What's your background?
Background is actually in psychiatry. Well, first I did acute mental health for years, where I worked with schizophrenic, bipolar, suicidality, acute occurrences with people who were like alcoholics and those different things, mental health assessments, and placed you on a 1013. That's an involuntary hospitalization if you were not fit to be able to care for yourself. So I did that for a lot of years, and then transitioned to individual therapy. And actually the last leg of my career was with marriage therapy, which I actually loved. I did that for a few years, and then, transitioning into development full time.
Oh, wait a minute. This is news to me. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So therapy is no longer a thing.
May will be end of my term.
Okay, congratulations.
Yeah, I still want to keep, wholeness of it, which is why I want to pivot to just having a lot of those human development conversations. A lot of the things that I have learned through my journey, in being a therapist is a lot of times, you're not stuck because of your inability. You're stuck because of your mindset and your inability to shift and drive your mindset forward, be it from trauma that you've experienced, triggers that you just can't, get rid of, unhealthy emotional response systems, to those triggers, to those trauma dynamics. And it just keeps you confined, right? Yeah. The industries that we're in, industries that, people where they're carrying heavier loads, you have to be able to have a healthy mindset development in order for you to be able to thrive. It is a lot of pressure. It can get very heavy very quickly. And if you're not equipped to be able to handle that level of pressure, you're going to sink, and your business is going to sink. And, the things around you are going to suffer keen on that. And just human connection in general.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
That's so cool. So your background is in psychology, therapy. How did you get this builder knowledge? Where did this come from? How did you get,
mentorship and, working with mentor for a span of time. And honestly, it has just been hungry knowledge, throwing ourselves in, again, just reflecting back on that early stage journey of understanding what we want to experience in a home. So for us, it's always not about just building a house, but building something that a buyer would want to experience. And so being very intentional about driving the experiences of a flow in a house, understanding texture and color palettes, and just how things make people feel, more so than just pulling something together and saying, here, you can sell it. Because you could, people all the time, sell very, entry-level houses with their shaker cabinets. And there's nothing wrong with that. My mind cannot conceptualize building something like that, just because I enjoy building just an aesthetically pleasing flow. And for things to just feel okay, I can just stay here. I don't have to leave my house. I'm not, seeking a respite from my home, but my home is an investment that I enjoy, just being in that space.
Yeah. So you've been in it for a couple of years now. How many years has it been?
4 years?
4 years. Time's flown by.
Time has flown. Yeah.
So if you think back,
this year is our 4th year.
Okay. So if you think back to the beginnings of Smith and Stewart Homes, what is something you would tell that younger bunch of women?
Girl, so much. That just made me teary-eyed. Because there is so much, one, you are going to get through this, right? Because I think that we're in hard seasons, and it just feels like there's no way that we're going to come to the other side of what we're experiencing presently. 2, I did actually a video about this maybe 2 years ago, about this video that I seen with TD Jakes, and he was talking about being in the weight room. And there's 2 things that I heard TD say a few years ago that was just very impactful. Is the weight room is not a place that God keeps you because he wants to leave you stuck. It is a place that he has you because he needs you to learn and he needs you to grow. And if you keep trying to push yourself past, then you're going to miss what God has had for you. So stay there and be present in that space and take up that space and really, grasp everything that you're supposed to learn, because you're going to need it for the next level, right? Like, even, with my background in being a therapist, like, I easily connect to my buyers, to, the community that I work with, because I have an ability to just connect to people, right? So like everything that, you experience in your life, it's transitional. You just have to be present in understanding what that transition applies to. So there's that. TD talked about like the safest space to be, people don't often recognize, is in the storm. We're too busy trying to fight our way out of it instead of just staying present, in it, which interchanges with, that weight room, but like just understanding that it's all right and it is all for purpose. And if you continue to move forward, you're going to look back and say, okay, God, I understand. Like, I remember that there was a house that my husband and I had under contract. And I remember going to that house and touching it and praying for it. And I was like, God, I know this is my house because it is COVID. And you let us get it under contract, right? In COVID, where people were putting multiple offers, there was no reason for us to have this house under contract. It was 5 other families that had put that house under contract. And I'm like, God, if you've given me something, when you give it to me, I usually get it. So like, I'm confused. And there was title issues on the house. Like, somebody had swindled, the lady was older, and it was title issues on the house. And so I'm like, okay, God, like, you're going to have to see me through this, because I'm not understanding what's happening right now. I don't understand why I'm about to bring a baby home soon and we have nowhere to live, right? And so I'm touching that house and I'm praying, and it didn't work out. And I was devastated, because I'm like, where are we going to live? We have a baby coming, what's going to happen? We literally spent 8 months in my husband's cousin's house in a room. It's 3 of us, for 8 months, because we were waiting on this other house to get built. But had God gave me that house, I wouldn't have had Jayana. Had I had not had this conversation with Jayana, I wouldn't have been here. So I'm 8 months praying, touching, and saying, God, you brought me to this. I know that this is where I'm supposed to be. And it is that storm. It is that weight room. It is that, those spaces that we're in that it's like, we don't understand it. But if you keep going, he's going to take you back to it, and you're going to be like, thank you for not letting that door open. Thank you for the contracts that didn't go through. Thank you for the no's, because there was a bigger place of where I was supposed to be.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I love it, girl. You try to get me crying on this here stuff. Oh, so inspirational. The journey is rigorous.
Yeah.
Oh, it can be so rigorous. But what are some tools that you use to stay organized? Because you have multiple projects going on. So congratulations to you on that.
Thank you.
What systems and tools are you subscribed to that kind of help you and Jayana when it comes to being capable of running the show?
Yeah. So a lot of what we have coming up right now is a lot of custom. So those lots that we had are all pre-sold.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes. Like, definitely so grateful for that. What we're doing with those lots is we kind of had like a few plans, but we're offering that semi-custom structure. Some of the clients have actually ended up pivoting to almost like a full custom, but instead of just saying, hey, here's the plan, here's the house, here's the finishes, it was more of a conversation around like, what's your budget? Here's plan structure. What do you need to experience in your house? And then we, kind of like built that structure around that. So we're trying to pivot into using an app that not only supports us, but also supports clients to where they feel, an efficiency and flow and security of being able to watch their home without us being overwhelmed. And, we're able to kind of just like have everything in a seamless direction.
Right.
Yeah.
But for someone starting out, just Excel, is it Google Sheets? Is it Builder Trend? Like, there's so many, and that's kind of like what people are trying to understand a lot of times is like, what are the things that I need for just one build?
Right. So Builder Trend, I think it's great. Like, if you are like an app person, I do, love like a very structured Excel budget. The other thing that I have pivoted to doing as well is like, you remember like my old Canva layout files. It has like evolved tremendously in me just understanding every microcosm of what is about to be placed in this house. I am literally like ironing out details for every single room because all of those things are important. Like, you think, okay, here's my budget for cabinets, but then that cabinet structure, depending on what you're putting in there, can either elevate, or decrease, just kind of depending on what those finishes need to look like. Tile, you go to the fireplace and you see hints of those same shades, but with texture. You go upstairs and you look at that lighting that's in that hallway. It's really that same smooth tile texture that exists in the bathroom, right? I need to see all of that so that I understand that the picture flows. So I'm using a full document for that, and then making sure that then it translates to our budget for the cost.
Nice. Because being organized is probably one of the hardest things to do, not only just on the front end with the customers, but in the back end. How do you and Jayana operate that back end piece?
Yeah, so we have like a day of the week that we sit and pay out subs. And then also making sure that so like every build has its own account, right? So we're operating, with multiple operational accounts. And then of course you still have like your other accounts that you're using for just like build expenses, a savings, like those different components, taxes, like all the things that you need to make sure that you navigate on the back end. Decisions for bigger factors independently so that we don't lose what's happening. Because you can do that very easily. Structured days of the week where, okay, today is a finance day, today is a business admin day, today is, a day where we're kind of like just going through each project and navigating what's been done this week, what's coming next week, looking at that schedule, then like all of these different structures so that we both are abreast of what's happening. Morning meetings every single morning of like, hey, like what does your day look like? Volume growing, we kind of have been like separate, so we're not necessarily like joined together projects. We're kind of handling different things at different times. Us having like that heavy efficiency of communication and then like these systems in place to where everything is planned out, like no decision is made without a plan so that we understand how things are evolving.
So you just spoke a whole lot of business acumen that some people don't even realize is necessary to have when they enter this journey. How did you get to the point where you are in terms of your efficiency? Like, was there a course that you took or?
Failing.
The best teacher.
That didn't work.
It has to be a better way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So honestly, like, understanding what didn't work, like once we got through that and like a lot of reflection, reflective conversation. And then from there, like researching, like there's a lot of, tools that'll kind of come up, like your algorithms, like all these different things. And, like as much as people give is as much as you have to also put in the work yourself to be able to understand. Everybody has their own like workflow. So what works for one person may not work for the next. Research to really understand what you need. And then what has been breaking you, like has it been, we started framing and then recognized, we can expand this window. And then now we done bought a bigger window, but we didn't budget for that window prior to, nor did we, budget for the change order of the framer who has to now come back and change the things. So pre-planning from your architectural plans to every single micro item, the door handle, the sockets, like literally looking through those architectural plans and understanding what's important, where are things going to go, where do you need outlets, where do you need every microcosm, and then making sure that you see it on paper, and then making sure that it has a number assigned to it, both material and labor.
Right.
And then from there, it's like, all right, you're kind of just like taking off and it's like the puzzles come together.
Right. Awesome. So when we're thinking about our plan in the phases of construction, you spoke about design and how intentional you are. How much time do you spend in that phase? And when do you actually start the design process?
So for me in the beginning,
Okay.
we spend the most time in like lighting. I like to start in the kitchen, and then also understanding like for me, I want the whole house. So like from the exterior to the interior, I want colors, your palette, I want it to flow and feel cohesive. I like to start in the kitchen because I feel like the kitchen is the heart of the home. It carries, like the home as it relates to design. And then we pivot, to the other spaces. Those questions that we're having with our clients that are coming in now is, tell me what feels good for you. What feels like, what color palettes, speak for you. Where are we going as it relates to like door structure and windows? So all these things on that list that I have were literally microcosm. Like I will sit here and say, how big do you want your fridge? What type of appliances do you want to use? How many do you need? Like what is it that we want to experience in this space, and then build out from there. So this is our first time doing like a full kind of like semi-custom custom group, right? So we'll be having, a whole group of clients that are coming in. I want to have all their designs done before we close, because one of the things that we ran into in the past with doing like single clients is when we're not planning for those things intentionally, when we're saying, okay, we know you want this build out, but we're not planning for the number of drawers and that you wanted LED lighting or whatever, then it drives up the cost. And then who's paying for that? It's either an argument, with the client if they're not understanding, or a consumption because you went into a contract. Your contracts are also super important, when you're doing these bills, for semi-custom, custom clients, in terms of like, are you using a fixed price contract, a cost plus contract?
Right.
Can a client handle a cost plus contract? All of these different things are things that you have to like be intentional about,
Right,
as you're navigating forward.
So there's so many elements to this. How big is your team?
So we are a team of 3
Okay.
right now. Well, 4, including our realtor. Who do we need? What do we need? And like, what would their role be? And that is very difficult, right?
You gotta do it.
So you do have to do it.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah. So like we're, definitely like under that microscope of like, what do we need to release control of as one full picture? Like we've, like dabbled with like having conversations with people in the past, like thinking about bringing on a designer, thinking about bringing on, a foreman, like someone who is just like kind of going from project to project to make sure that everything is in alignment, but I think, people kind of have their own journey, so it haven't really worked out with the people that we've been interested in. We're being intentional with like looking, thinking, continuing to have those conversations, and then just, also still asking God for alignment, because again, like all the things are impactful, and you just don't want to have anyone in these spaces where people are investing, so much money. Like nothing that we build, typically is under $750, $850. That's, $200,000 shy, $150,000 shy of $1 million. Like that's a lot of money that you're delivering.
Right. So you mentioned someone on your team is the realtor. How important is the realtor in the whole process?
Very, because anybody can do that. To be quite honest, Jayana is also a licensed realtor. Like we could do that ourselves. Someone who is invested in our product, who's invested in the growth element of our firm, and who wants to really see us evolve in our driving business, and having those conversations so that we can be able to do that.
Right.
Someone that we're not just a number and not just a client, but, we are as much of a priority, as, their other business, are answering the phones, who are, doing the callbacks, who are scheduling these meetings so that we can be able to, get clients. Like, again, through grace, I'm here all day today until 6:00 because I have meetings that our realtor has brought in with clients back to back to be able to really, continue to like sell our product. And it is a blessing, to be in a space where someone can come in and see your product, and we're at a pre-sale now versus, having to build and then wait and hope, that someone is going to connect it to the other side. Yeah, it is. Like, of course, we still want to continue to drive, that area of our market as well, and still build our spec homes. like this also gives us really good like grounding underneath us to be able to acquire, the financial structures and just all the things that we want to put in place to be able to continue to grow and evolve.
So you mentioned spec homes. What is the difference in mindset that a builder needs to have when they're transitioning from spec homes to custom? In terms of their approach to building, what needs to be different?
Yeah, so like spec homes is what you want to do, right? It's, your own thing, like you're very tight, you can control your budget. Everything is just kind of like, I understand what fixtures, finishes, what I'm looking for in these models. When we're going into doing customs, it's, having an understanding for me, like I really like to start with tell me what your budget is, because I'm going to kind of limit that flow based upon what you're saying, like even from the start of the square footage. I also understand that like the product that we develop is, more higher end than products where if I just went to Norcross and bought, a row of shaker cabinets, I can get that for $2,500. This is every bit of, $20,000 kitchen that we're in right now, right? We are intentional with product because I don't want this to change. Like this is the standard. Then I have to be intentional with square footage. And then also trying to understand what you want in your home so that we can kind of cultivate a cohesive space for all of it to work. There may be conversations where I'm like, hey, like according to the budget, we might need to scale down on square footage. We can kind of pull from here, increase there to make sure that the rooms that feel important are, like accounted for. And then the other rooms that we're not really going to live in. Then we don't have to, like be as large, in those rooms. We can have our glass, we can have our walk-in pantries, we can have our high-end, our higher grade, appliances. We have our waterfall quartz islands. We have our engineered hard floors. We have the iron pivot doors, all the things that really makes a house feel wealthy, and good. We can have those things as we're navigating forward. So again, like my approach is a little bit different. I don't want to just like, go in and say, hey, I can do this for this amount of money. That's going to scare people away. I like to say, tell me what you need, and then let's pull it together, with just like a full concept and flow.
Okay, so Bionca, you are now a custom builder. How do you get your first client?
Our first client from another house that we did, clients came in and they were like, hey, we want it, right? We were able to accumulate a few lots in a neighborhood that we've already been developing in, which has been great. Like we were able to use a home that we had for a model home. Because it's always important for people to be able to see, the structure of what you're building versus just kind of like having photos.
Yeah, beautiful home.
Thank
Beautiful
you.
homes. So excited for you. So we have a thing in common. We have these pandemic babies. And these babies, they are unique. They take a lot. How are you balancing mommy and building and businesswoman? How are you making that work?
You know what? I think some days emotionally, I feel like I'm not, right? I feel like, I could be doing more. I could be giving more. I know this year with like still being in clinical practice, managing this, wife and like all the things, and it's felt harder, than it has in the past year. But one thing my cousin told me, she was like, give yourself grace and be good at something, like just pick a day, if it's today. And it's like, okay, what did I do strong today? Like how did I show up today? I have a really good support system with my husband, like a really, really good support system with him. And he's, a very healthy and beautiful balancing act. And we really, do a good job with like balancing Carter together, right? Like I will bring her on site, like she is, just as equally interested. Like she loves going on site. She puts her boots on, and, that level of exposure is also really beautiful and very important for her. Like they are seeing things that, from 3 years old, they have been on site. 5, transitioning to 6. And so, for them to be able to be in a space and, to see us and see their mothers, doing these very important and impactful things, Like, it's an amazing, thing. And some days I have to get home and I have to just like, even though all of this stuff is on your mental, right? Separating and say, okay, like, let me just give a few intentional hours until Carter goes to sleep. And then once she goes to bed, now I'm back up until 12 o'clock. I got to flip it back up, 6 o'clock the next morning and just try it again. And understanding that it's only a season, right? Like, this is not forever. All these different things that would not be afforded as it relates to time if I did not invest this early stage time, into the business. I've taught her gratitude, I think, from like I'm always like, you need to say thank you, you need to be appreciative, you need to be present, and just like verbal, giving, like, it's a big thing that I've kind of always taught her. And so she's so intentional with like, Mom, you're the best mom, and like, I'm so grateful, and thank you so much, like, I have the best mom in the world. And that is like, reassuring that like the moments where I feel like I'm missing out on like these microcosmic things, that she feels my presence and she knows, like how hard we work. And I will talk to her ahead of time. I'm like, hey, here's my schedule tomorrow. Dad's going to pick you up. I'll be home around this time, so that she's aware of like what the day will look like. And she's understanding of that. There are some days where she's like, Mom, do you have to work late today? Oh man, like, I would have preferred if you would be able to be here. But then we, we'll interchange it with like Fridays we have sleepovers, or like the therapy side of me is like in the mornings, instead of us getting up, like I set an alarm for 15 minutes prior to the time that it's time for us to get out the bed. And one, I think that that's just very important, because like a lot of people will get up and they run into their day. And now you are rushing, you built anxiety, like you have all of these different things swirling because you haven't given yourself a moment to be present with yourself before you, pivot to your day. So I want to teach her just like really good habits with that.
Love it.
And so we cuddle like every single morning, and like I'm just saying good morning, and I'm giving her a kiss, and like, I'm so proud of you, what are you excited for your day? And we like have a minute to talk, and then we transition into the day.
And those are lasting memories. Those are core memories that you establish by doing that.
Right.
I love that. So on the show, we have a tradition where the last guest leaves a question for the current guest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the last guest, the question was, they wanted to know, what are you doing to better the industry?
So my hope is with floor plans. Like, I love being able to create just a very healthy, cohesive floor plan flow that feels open, it feels good, it feels intentional space is being used. Really changing this language around, you need a massive amount of space in order to be able to create a very good and integrity driven home, right? And so I'm really trying to like kind of pivot that language to, how about we put more money in the product, a little bit less focus on the spacing number, being intentional with the spacing flow, and then really driving the material and the finishes of the home.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So what question would you want to leave for the future guest?
Yeah.
And not the overthought version. So that's why I like to kind of like ask it in the moment.
What question would I want to ask?
And it doesn't have to be like construction focused. It can just be, because that person is a business owner as well, or they're playing some role. So it can not just be concentrated on the industry.
What was the moment that changed your business?
That's a good question.
Yeah, because I think that like, I was just talking to our framer yesterday, and he actually owns like a multi-million-dollar framing company, and I'm so proud of him. One of the things that he mentioned, he was like, he remembers being in his dry season where he was just like hoping for an opportunity. And now he literally has like multiple like multi-million-dollar contracts that are coming up like in the summer, in the spring. And it was just like a pivot shift from like one person who remembered him and was like, I remember like, the structure, the intentionality that you put in this, and I really want to bring you over here. It was a GC that he worked with in the past, right? And I think that everybody has like just that moment. Like, I think that this house was a part of like our moment, right? Because then we were able to like showcase it in comparison to the lots and really like talk through with the clients and just really be able to kind of bring everything full circle. What was that moment that changed your business?
Love it. Awesome. It was so great talking to you today.
Yes, well, I appreciate it.
So what do you want, before we go, what do you want to leave with the people? What can they anticipate next from Smith and Stewart Homes?
Yeah. So I'm going to give some, put out a podcast, few things that, of course, we want to continue to have like these human development conversations.
Oh, yeah.
As you guys, probably already saw, so intentional about, just like being present with yourself, present in the world around you, and, really just taking every experience, good or bad, for a moment of growth. And so, really being able to just like use our business as a catapult, of like just continuing to drive those conversations forward, driving, being a mom, being a woman, being able to like, hold our own, in this industry, and just still being good at it, like you can be a good mom, a good wife, and a good business owner. Like you don't have to sacrifice, those things. So being able to really create, conversation and just kind of like drive, that narrative forward. Having healthy families, I think is another one that I, hope to be able to kind of like showcase as well. I'm so proud of like everything that, you and Jean are doing with your marriage, with your girls. Like it is just such an honor and a blessing to be able to, watch God unfold that. So, like we're going to take you guys through building all these houses that we have coming for all of our semi-custom buyers and custom buyers, and really talk about like what they want to experience in their house. We kind of started some of the early stage architectural conversations, but hopefully I can be able to kind of like fill that gap to take you from the beginning to finishing, those products, because each house is going to be different.
Love it.
Yeah.
Excited. Well, thank you again, Bionca. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time.
Bye.
It was good.